It was terrifying.
Wait, okay, yeah, good, that's on. Jody's
I get two mics.
All right.
At least it's nice and cool in this room. I was hanging out in this room at 2:30 in the morning last night because it was nice and cool and empty.
Is this supposed to be? Hi, sorry we're starting late. It's madness out there, but here we are. We're going to talk about dragons. Just to make sure everybody's in the right place, this is the fantasy literature track. Hello. I'm Charlotte Moore, the director of this here track, and I'm going to let these four lovely individuals introduce their own damn selves, starting with the loveliest one on my left, and getting progressively lovelier until we stop at Todd.
I'm Jody, Lynn. I write science fiction and fantasy, short stories, and books, and lots of things about dragons.
Hi, my name is Christopher Paolini. It has been 2 weeks, 4 days, and 37 minutes since I last wrote about a dragon.
Christopher.
Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Christopher.
Dragons are awesome, and it is a real treat and honor to be here today. So thank you.
Didn't you write a book about a dragon?
Yeah, I wrote a book about dragons called, what was it called? I can't remember. Aragon, yes. It's my joke at conventions. I should wear a shirt that says, "Oh, you're that guy."
That's not relevant.
There might be dragons in Alaska.
Well, I've lived in Alaska twice. There are dragons there. They're called mosquitoes.
Yeah, they have the same breed in Minnesota, I have noticed.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Lackey. I've written 127 books, and the next dragon I'm going to write about is a Nazi death dragon.
Do Nazi death dragons speak German or Thomas?
They definitely
Todd.
speak German,
I don't know.
but this one I don't think has a tongue. It's a robot.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, you didn't say that it was a Nazi robot death dragon.
It is a Nazi robot death dragon.
Of course it is. Sure it is.
My poor husband has been a fantasy illustrator for 30 years, and there are only 2 dragons he's ever been asked to do, only one cover, and it's the Nazi death robot dragon. Has never done a scaly live dragon.
He's like, my whole career has led up to this moment.
I'm late. My name's Todd McCaffrey. I'm not the late Todd McCaffrey, thank goodness. But so I am known for writing on the Dragon Riders Pern universe. Yeah, I know. Although when it comes to collaborating with McCaffrey, Jody was the one who broke us in with Dragon Harper, the Choose Your Own Adventure,
That's
which
true.
apparently people don't know about. So shameless plug, eBay, go look for it. Choose Your Own Adventure if you remember them. It's gonna be a collector's item. Get it signed. And then recently, a number of years, not too many years back, somebody asked me to write them a story with dragons, and I said I'd be happy to, but they can't be Pern dragons. So I have a series of stories that are dealing with talking, transmogrifying into human dragons. The first one of which is out in Women in Practical Art, and it's called Golden.
Nice. And which we staged here as a play a few times. Which we did as a play here a few times. Golden.
Oh
It
yeah,
is a
we did.
dramatic
We
reading.
did.
Mhm.
Yeah, we did it as a play, which is supposed to be a hint to all of you that have shorter works, Christopher, Mercedes, to consider maybe converting something into a play for voices that we could then put on at the con, which would be fun and cool and help hype your latest book.
With Nazi death dragons.
Well, Nazi death dragons. I mean,
Nazi
geez.
death robot dragons.
Robot dragons, that's right.
Nazi death robot dragons.
Oh, okay, sorry, just making sure. I heard a little cross chatter. Let's minimize the cross chatter. Okay. Hey guys, Why are dragons cool? Why do you like them? Why do you keep writing about them?
Because they're powerful and they're magic and they're bigger than anybody who has ever harassed you or made you feel small, unimportant. And they're wise and they're mysterious. So I like a lot of things about dragons. They're a symbol of some of the greatest power and some of the greatest mysteries in the world.
And this is the concept of like the dragon broadly, right? We'll get into
Yes.
what a dragon can be, how we can twist them to our nefarious purposes for fiction.
Well, we don't have a century and have to describe all the things they can do.
Yes.
Dragons eat bullies.
I think our answers are going to be very similar. I liked dinosaurs as a young boy, as many young boys do.
And young girls.
And young girls, exactly. And as a young person, to me, dragons were sort of the natural extension of dinosaurs. And they were the awesome dinosaurs because they could breathe fire and they could fly. And if you had one as a friend, you could ride on them, and they could eat anyone you didn't like. So, yes. And both as a reader and as a writer, one of the things that makes dragons my favorite mythological creature is that in so much of mythology, in whether the Eastern tradition or the Western tradition, is that dragons are often linked to the creation and the destruction of reality itself, of the world itself, and also to the health of the land and the kingdom and the world. And no other mythical creature really has that same weight. As pretty as unicorns are, they're kind of useless aside from prettiness. So,
Some of us have actually figured out great uses for unicorns.
hey, I had a unicorn in the
There
first
is a
draft.
Nazi. There's going to shortly be a Nazi unicorn.
Nazi
Dragon.
robot death unicorn.
There you go.
Pink sparkles.
And I write about a unicorn and a dragon who are best friends.
Yeah.
But for all of those reasons, for me, dragons especially have always spoken very deeply to me.
Your turn.
You want to go
The
next?
other thing, well, the other thing that occurs to me is that dragons very often represent the very weak being championed by the very strong, as in dragons eat bullies. If you look at a lot of the myths where dragons have not been a antagonist to humans, but have been a ally to humans, it's generally not the great big knight in his 75,000-pound armor who can basically get his way no matter what, who is championed by a dragon. It's usually someone smaller and weaker. And so it's great power comes to the aid of the weak.
Well, traditionally in Western society, dragons were a feared and to be destroyed species. St. George in the old older treatises, because dragons were and still are the symbols of creativity and chaos and power, and that was something that was not liked. Back in around about 1964, 65, I was thrown out of my front living room, which was a sad day, by my mother, who said, I have to think. Why she couldn't think someplace else, I don't know. And then said, and what do I think about dragons? And I said, what about dragons? And she said, well, I think they've had bad press.
She was
Sorry, there was a lot of stuff that just happened there. I'm trying to think through where the next. Is there,
Between.
Oh. So then tell us a little bit, so there's sort of the idea of the dragon as defender. And I was thinking a little bit, Misty, what you were saying about how dragons are often portrayed as defenders of the weak. And maybe not always the weak, but maybe it's an evil dragon who can be coerced to help because our protagonist is especially clever and can offer the dragon something in return for its services. What do you
get you an agent?
Price.
I know this nice girl.
You'll love her. But so how, you've got the sort of the idea of what a dragon is, so what did you do with that for your own stories? What was like the one aspect of the dragon you focused most on on in a story, and why that? Why does that thing appeal to you?
Okay, I'm going. They're too slow.
Yeah, no, there's no particular order, just jump in.
Trying to be
Yeah, you get in there,
Well, I
man.
know, but I'm you know what? I get to be the old
Yeah,
brain
yeah.
here. You know, okay. It's interesting because with the Pern dragons, they're well established and we kind of know what's going on with them. Although I did go back and decide that Watchwares had had bad press, and that's what we did with Dragon's Kin and so on. But with this new story, Golden, I wanted to come up with, the meek shall inherit the earth. So I said, okay, well, how can you make a story where it pays to be meek? And it turns out basically in my story, my meek character is married to a dragon, shape-shifting dragon. And I now understand why dragons work in my universe gold and have bad tempers. It's because magic rains down, and gold is actually a magical suppressant. So when you're having a magic-induced migraine, you kind of need that quart of gold. And it's,
Gold is Dragon's Annex?
yeah, basically, or really sort of ibuprofen at some level.
Yeah.
So now you know. It's like, okay. But it was a lot of fun, and my hero had to be really polite with his dragon mate.
Little, yellow, different.
Well done. Yes, that's the point. So that's where I went with the latest iteration of dragons. Although to praise somebody who's not here because we just couldn't get her again. Naomi Novik blew Mom and my socks off with her Temeraire series. It's kind of like, why didn't we think a dragon's big enough to have people riding on their backs that weren't riders? Why didn't we, whoa, we were like, oh, that was so cool. So if you haven't read, how many people have not read Naomi Novik's Temeraire series? Okay, there's just a very few, but it's fun. It's,
So say the author.
It's Naomi Novik,
And-
Naominovik.
I've got it.
Yeah.
She also, sorry.
Oh no, it's the Napoleonic Wars fought with dragons.
Yeah, it's
Basically.
Patrick O'Brien meets dragons.
Yeah, it's
But
nuts.
the other fun thing, she just won a Nebula
Yeah, she did.
for Uprooted, which also had a dragon in it, but it was only a title of somebody. But a great book, so.
Yeah, one of my favorite pieces of fantasy ever written, actually. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I love about this genre is, this is true of any genre, but especially in fantasy, because fantasy has such old roots, is that with every new book and every new author who comes in, you're engaging in a conversation with everything that's gone before you. And you can pay tribute, you can modify, you can rebel, whatever you choose to do, whatever feels right for you. In my case, I remember the dragon from Beowulf. I remember the dragons from the Wizard of Earthsea trilogy. I remember the dragons, then of course from Dragon Riders of Pern, and McCaffrey stuff and how they were portrayed differently there. And when I started writing, I had the hubris to think, I love all these little elements here and big elements here and there, but no one's ever gotten it quite right for me. And therefore, I want to do X, Y, Z. And I didn't do a whole lot differently, but I did a few things differently. And those few things were what felt right to me for dragons. And one of the fun things about writing about dragons for me is that they're unpredictable. Even if you understand the character, dragons almost always have the ability to tap on the fourth wall, if not break the fourth wall. And that's a joy to write. So for me, I knew I wanted, like in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, I wanted dragons who were good, who were intelligent, and then I took it a step further with mine. Dragons can speak telepathically, they can actually speak. And then I gave them glittering gem-like scales because they're dragons and they're fabulous.
And they should be shiny. They're always ready for a party.
Exactly.
That's interesting, that no matter how a dragon seems to manifest in a lot of stories, it seems to come, no matter what they look like, a dragon is a dragon is a dragon, but they always seem to have a will of their own. Like a dragon always does what a dragon wants, and then like dragon riders of Pern, like they could eat everyone around them, but they don't.
Well, they were not bred.
No, they're not bred that way, right?
The original.
They can be temperamental.
Dragonettes.
Well, I literally did that with the Elven-Bane dragons, where they are trickster spirits, and they're like giant versions of coyote. And
Yes,
it's
I
very-
think that's a
yeah.
really good analog. Dragons are the original true neutral for your D&D speak here, because they do things for their own purposes. And you may not understand what that purpose is, but if it happens to align with what they're doing, then they'll go along with you, but if they don't, probably not.
I'm thinking about Ruth and Dragon Riders. Ruth. Excuse me. The white dragon.
It's Ruth.
It's Ruth.
Pronounced it Bruce.
Thank
Okay,
you.
then she
She
changed her mind about
may
that.
have been a bit rough with you, but I know
Yeah.
obviously she
Oh,
has.
okay.
Well, she was
And
ruthless
I had
with
a
you.
hard time with that.
I think she was ruthless with you.
Yeah, well, she was usually.
Yeah.
And she was rough on him.
Yeah, no, but it's an example of like, yeah, they were programmed to behave a certain way, but half of the time, Ruth would just sweep Jackson off on some adventure, going, no, this is going to be for everyone's benefit. You're going to like what we're doing here. And by the time you're on a dragon's back, like, where are you going to go? You have to agree. Yeah, off we go.
Well, dragons are kind of like cats, too.
Yes.
You know, cats are the closest equivalent we have. I think cats and falcons.
Well, I
No,
gotta.
I tend to think of y'all's dragons a lot like dogs, because they want to hang out with you all the time.
If you know horses at all well, there's a lot of horse in
Yeah, a
standard
lot of
dragon
horse.
behavior.
Yes.
You know, you will get the mischievous. Actually, Mom had a heavyweight hunter, which means he was 16 hands high and I think 1,100 weight or 7. I can't remember how much he weighed. Lots.
Enough.
Particularly when he put his big toe on your big toe and kept it there and looked at you like, why are you screaming? Is there a problem? So horses have
Like
that.
innocence.
Oh gosh, yeah, that horse could do innocence.
Is that-
So yeah, I think there's some of it there and that. Another plug out there for people who haven't seen different sides of dragons that comes to mind because we're talking about this is R.A. McAvoy's Tea with the Black Dragon.
Yes.
Yes.
Or
Okay.
Bertie McAvoy, as everybody knows.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it's
a very traditional Chinese dragon.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so
Mayland
a lot of-
Long.
Huh?
Mayland Long,
Yeah.
who is the acquaintance of the main character of the story, is in fact a dragon, a Chinese dragon. And it's a lovely book, and it really should not have fallen out of print.
No,
No,
it shouldn't.
yeah.
Also for those of you
But
who
it is
haven't
back.
found them yet, Shauna McGuire has done the amazing. Did you read Discount Armageddon yet? Oh gosh. Okay, so Shauna McGuire is going to introduce you to dragons in a way that you've never really thought of them before, I believe, with Discount Armageddon.
Well, then I have to put a shout out then for Serafina by Rachel Hartman.
Oh, good.
Yes, that is a
I
wonderful.
see a vocal fan base for that.
It was a very different take on dragons, and
Oh, yeah.
it had a beautifully written language. I've not read the sequel yet. I have it sitting in my reading mountain, but
You have one of those too.
yeah, it's a whole walk-in closet. It's just a mountain of books.
Yeah.
I think we all know that.
I also have a scholar's mistress.
Uh,
You know what a scholar's mistress is? Okay. Scholar's mistress is the pile of books on the side of your bed. It's the place of where your spouse should be.
No,
I also have Todd Lockwood, the fantasy painter, who's done many awesome
We
dragon
had him as a
paintings.
guest here in the.
He has his own first novel out all about dragons called The Summer Dragon, and I am 15 pages in and enjoying it so far, and it's illustrated too. So
by
This makes-
I wonder who, the
And-
one
and-
and only Todd.
Todd Lockwood, that's right.
Yeah.
And
See,
of course,
anybody named Todd is usually good.
right.
Yeah, Todd's are
And-
great
and
guys.
I have to put a shout
I
out.
hope you guys
for
are writing all this
many
down.
Dragons of Robert Asprin,
Yeah.
the Dragons series that's in New Orleans.
Wait.
Yet another
Oh,
Yet another kind of dragon, another iteration of dragons. Oh,
I just realized we're forgetting a good one. The Dealing with Dragons series.
Oh, yeah.
She threatened, there's Dancing with Dragons, Dealing with Dragons, and she threatened Bowling with Dragons, but she's never.
And those books were very influential on me, yeah.
They were fun.
And Robin McKinley has some good dragons. So.
And
There are lots of good dragons.
there are lots.
There are lots of good dragons, and your mother's book, A Diversity of Dragons.
Yes.
Have you ever used that sort of dragon in your stories, or why are they so appealing? Is it because they're
I kind of did with the joust dragons, because we are no longer wild raptor rehabbers, because we are too old to go through 5 acres of wait-a-minute bushes or climb up trees. But we were raptor rehabbers for, gosh, just a couple of decades. And I used entirely raptor behavior with the joust dragons. And unless you imprint them like you would imprint a falcon or a hawk, they are wild, they will eat you, they don't care if you're a bully, they'll eat you no matter what, and they have entirely raptorial behavior. So I did kind of do that with the joust dragons.
Yeah, that's just badass. That's just fun, right? To write
Yeah, it
an
is.
evil dragon. Yeah, and I think
Hungry more
I
than
wouldn't
evil.
call it evil, I would call it animal.
Animalistic.
Okay, Chris Rock tells a story about a tiger that people with cameras picked up her cub, and she attacked them. And they said, she went crazy. And he said, no, that tiger didn't go crazy. That tiger went tiger.
Yeah.
And dragons are not necessarily evil, but they're dragon.
Right.
So,
Well, I was thinking dragons, where they are.
It is
manifestations of
not
evil.
wise to anger a dragon, for you are tasty and good with ketchup.
Good with ketchup.
I love that quote.
but that has appeared on more t-shirts, more stickers, more posters. And a dragon that people don't necessarily think of as evil or particularly dangerous is Gleep. Robert Asperin's dragon, Skeeve, is in Gleep's mind, is his pet. It's not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And as Bob has pointed out, had pointed out on more than one occasion, and I have to keep in mind, Gleep is a stone killer. There are people who threaten Skeeve that are not alive today because Gleep took care of them. And it just seems perfectly natural.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with his approach. He's a dragon.
Sometimes people are dumb and you're hungry.
That is the best definition I've heard.
I saw a guy walking around earlier today with a t-shirt that said, "Cool story, bro, needs more dragon." And as far as elemental dragons go, I mean, I think there is, I mean, if you want a good example, is Godzilla. Godzilla is the
Yeah.
destroying dragon.
Oh, yeah.
And, Robin Hood, good dragons. But also Grendel by John Gardner is
Yes.
a great retelling
Yes.
of Beowulf and has the dragon as the evil elemental force in a lot of ways, which I highly, highly recommend. It's funny, in my books I have bonded and unbonded dragons. The unbonded wild ones are sort of neutral in the sense they will definitely eat you if they're hungry, but we don't really see them in my story. So I wrote a short story actually just a couple of weeks ago. That's what I was referencing at the beginning of the talk, with the idea of the dragon as the destroying dragon, which I've never really tackled before. It's not a long story, but it was so much fun to write. And it was powerful. I mean, I have no idea how people will react when they read it, but writing it for me was powerful. And there was a sense of apocalyptic doom to it. It is very hard to get when, you're just being overrun by rabid wolves, which is scary, but it's not quite the same thing as the world is ending, which is what you get with a Godzilla or the destroying dragons.
What is the one,
Yes.
Vermifax.
What a great
yes.
name.
Yes.
Oh, that is beautiful. There was a movie that preceded Dragonheart, but there was just a killer dragon rampaging, and it was.
The Rain of Fire. That was later.
Dude, Rain of Fire, so good bad. So good so bad.
It would have been so better improved by just an voiceover prologue.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
would have
yeah.
saved that movie.
Yeah, there kind of was. It's like Christian Bale sort of growling into the thing about, and then Matthew McConaughey gets eaten, and it's great. It's so great.
If we're talking about
But
dragons,
technically those are wyverns, not dragons.
They are wyverns, yeah.
if
That's
we're
really
talking
cool.
about
They're all-
dragons
they're
in film, then
cousins.
we got to go back to Shrek.
Right.
That-
Yeah.
But they're cousins. Wyverns and dragons are
The
cousins.
dragon, the evil dragon at the end of How to Train Your Dragon, the first film. That's the
Oh,
dragon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, when that thing opens its eye and it's bigger than other dragons.
Yes.
Just
You're like, oh, shoot.
and all the other riders are terrified of it. You're scared of dragons. They're scared of that.
Yes.
That is an elemental.
Now, why can't they do that in a live action film?
Wouldn't that be-
I mean, just they always do the animated.
I find, like, do you guys experience this in your lives, and maybe you guys too experience this, where like you're in a really thorny situation, someone's really making you mad in your life, and you just think like, man, if my dragon was here right now. Or even like if my fire lizards were here right now. Like yeah, I don't know.
I want to fly.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I love, among many other reasons, I love the Miyazaki films. Is he loves the sensation of flying. Spirited Away, when she flies with the water dragon.
Yeah.
And he captures that sense of awe and wonder. And boy, if he did,
Well, I think that and back to How to Train Your Dragon, that first flight scene is incredible. To me, I always watch that and get a little misty thinking about that would be what like yearling training would be like your first flight with your impressed dragon.
Well, I'm here to throw a little cold water on that. Because I work with raptors and I know how raptors and large raptors fly.
Yeah, sure.
You better have your Dramamine or scopolamine. Because it's going to be up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
And the down is going to be you're catching air and zero gravity there for a second.
Well, sure, and anybody
Over
who's
and-
even flown small planes can tell you about
And
that.
how about straddling that spine now?
I know.
You
know, they
What?
always
Think
make
about that,
sense, but
gentlemen.
Where's the padding?
That's why there's a gap between the spikes on the neck that's perfect for sitting.
Right.
But you're going up, down, up, down.
That's why harness.
So basically, the question would be, how was the flight?
I don't think riding dragons should not be a peaceful experience. It should be intense. It should be the sort of thing that scars you for life, maybe literally.
I was in the Army in Germany, in the U.S. Army in Germany, and I had a motorcycle, and I would occasionally get leave and drive up through Germany to France, take a ferry over to Ireland and visit home. But those of you who have had motorcycles, particularly the Euro-style motorcycles, may notice that after prolonged periods of riding on a motorcycle, certain parts of your anatomy are actually deprived of blood. And when the blood flows once again, it is interesting. So yes, that would be the downside of riding dragons. It may explain why they're not happening so often.
Saddles. I always worry about
Yeah.
watching Game of Thrones. Every time Daenerys like climbs up on Drogon, and she's not using a saddle at all. And
No.
dude is so spiky. Like,
And he has spikes and scales and lots of cutty little places. Yeah.
Well, it's called Game of Thrones for a reason. I mean, remember, there's that sword throne.
Yeah,
You're
no,
gonna mount the
no.
sword throne, you probably gotta be finished with the sword
Listen,
dragon first,
for a
right?
woman who is fireproof, I think that she probably doesn't mind as much as we would.
Well, that's probably true.
Well, that's why when I had the first dragon flight in Aragon, is he gets his legs ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
I mean, he is flayed.
yeah,
And
you get calluses in weird
I mean,
places.
riding horse, if you're not used to riding a horse, is bad enough.
Oh, God,
You put
it
in
can
hard
be
scales and whew.
Yeah. I always worry too about Pyrenees dragons when they search somebody who has no experience with the weird, like there's some whole-bred kid from backwaters.
This is a different panel and it happens at 10 o'clock.
Tomorrow, 10 o'clock tomorrow, and they get their first dragon ride and their first trip between. Like, how often, let's be real, how often do dragons get peed on?
Or when you're taking a really long trip. A really long trip.
I'm just imagining the dragony disapproval if a rider did something like that.
Yeah, you just put like do dragon riders are like, we're going on search, we need to put like a wet nap down. Like we got like the thing you put on your mattress to like absorb. They need one of those. And dragons are very polite in Pern. Like, do they not even tell? You'd think they'd not tell their riders until like the kids disembark and they're like, hey, my neck, I need a towel. You've got to oil them, and then you're oiling your dragon. Like,
But
yo,
at
you
least
could have told me.
scales just wash clean, you know?
But they don't even have scales. Pyrenees dragons don't have
Well,
scales.
that's true.
It's just runs? Oh, it's gross. I just assumed it. Just 'cause I'm
They're
weird.
Teflon, so anything.
Teflon.
But you go
Keeping
between.
thought of everything.
There's a reason why you go between, right?
Right.
Dragons go between.
You know, dragons go in between.
But you know why it's often hard to talk to a dragon rider, don't you?
No, I'm gonna know.
Because their head's usually in the clouds.
Seriously? Seriously?
I've got more.
No.
Oh, but that's
You
another
don't.
panel. I want to see
No,
this panel
you
next year.
don't.
Please panel next year. That'll be fun. Come back, Christopher.
Dude,
One more
I've been
panel.
trying to get this guy here for freaking like 5 years, and this is how he repays us.
You see, now that he's here, he knows how much he likes it.
Wait, you know why
You know what we
dragons-
have to do? We actually have to get him to go play Starship Valkyrie with Jim Butcher and me.
No!
Why have I not been invited?
We should get Jody to Starship Valkyrie too. There's a whole conversation. We should get Jody. Would be cool. in
I
Starship
RPG for crying out loud.
Valkyrie.
Hang on, I think.
We'll talk. It's a very small comment.
Did you have another zinger for us?
Well, you know why dragons often have dragon riders, don't you?
No, Christopher. Why do dragons often have
Because
dragon
they like
riders?
being scaled.
No.
I thought they liked being mounted, but okay.
That's tomorrow at 10 p.m. Hey, how about we take some questions? Let's stop this. Let's stop this. Please help me make this not happen anymore.
Well, this of course
Okay,
is
we've got a minion going to get a mic, but
this of course is why the Aragon movie was as sad as it was, because they paid the dragon scale.
I'm using that.
So we're just gonna wing it from here.
This is what happens when you sit in a room for a couple of years and do nothing but write about dragons.
It gets dragonizing.
Tell us about it.
Oh, this just keeps dragging on.
okay, do we have any questions at this point? Comments?
Please,
Oh,
ask
we've got one
questions.
over. Oh, right, Melissa, right.
You'll have to speak up.
Yeah.
We're into the mic.
The mic is not on.
I'm not working. We need to have them come to the exit.
Oh, like form a line?
Yeah.
Okay, go stand by Melissa. Make a line with your questions.
Don't be this.
Yeah. By this, right behind this cutie patootie right here. Okay.
This is like having a political town meeting.
Yeah.
But for dragons.
Bye bye, dragons.
Oh God, does that give me an idea?
Just remember, if we don't like your question, you'll be eaten.
I'm Alex,
You're Alex.
and I have a question for Christopher Paolini.
Okay.
Why did you kill Braun?
You have been conned. You have been conned by a 3-foot-tall person.
But you know, this world takes 5 years to get him to come here. Yeah.
Anybody bring any aloe for that burn?
correct.
You're a darling child.
That is a wonderful,
She's 11 years old.
wonderful question, and the answer is, and it was very hard to kill him, and I had tears in my eyes when I wrote the scene. But the reason I had to is because the story of the inheritance cycle is the story of Aragon and the other young people growing up and taking on the roles and responsibilities of the previous generation, inheriting them, one might even say. And as a result, Braun was much more experienced and better at things than Aragon. And if he had been around, he would have done things for Aragon because he was better at them than Aragon. And Aragon would have never grown and learned and become what he needed to become. So for that reason, alas, poor Braun is no more. But good question, thank you.
I've read all 3 of your books.
Would you be happy if he did a prequel with Brom in it?
I think my agent would be happy with that too, so.
You would think
million words in 2 months.
Easy.
David.
Just get John Ringo.
What's up, man?
No, don't.
No, John.
Wondering if y'all ever done anything sort of EE night, actually have the dragon as the main protagonist going through the world?
We didn't quite hear that again. I'm sorry.
Hold the mic closer to your mouth.
Something similar to EE Nights, Ring of Fire. The part about where the dragons are actually the main characters of the whole thing.
Oh, you're asking, have they ever written a book where the dragon's the protagonist of the story?
Yeah, the
Okay.
main character, the entire thing.
Or if you haven't, would that be something you'd be interested in? And or I'll add that, have you ever read such a story that you really love?
Well, the elven-made dragons are protagonists.
And the dragons in the Robert Asprin series that I picked up and wrote the next two, the main characters are all dragons. And the short story that I did for the Dragon Writers anthology, which Todd and I are both in, or my main character is in fact a dragon. He's a Welsh dragon, as a matter of fact.
And again, getting back to Golden in the sequel, which is going to be in Dragon Writers, my heroine or scary person is also a dragon, and her daughter Golden is also a dragon, but they're shape-shifting dragons. So yeah, we kind of done that.
I would argue that Saphira is actually one of the main characters, if not the point of view character, but certainly one of the two main characters of the inheritance cycle. But I would actually have difficulty writing a whole story from the point of view of a dragon, because to me it's like trying to write a story from inside the Doctor from Doctor Who, from inside his head, you know? Because dragons are, at least the way I approach them, they're so smart and different and alien and powerful that I'm not saying that I couldn't do it, but it would be a little difficult for me. I like to stay outside of them a little bit and keep some of that alien feeling. And I had a few chapters from Saphira's point of view in the series, but I kept it to a minimum to preserve that feeling as much as possible.
And I will give you a very quick, short dragon perspective story right now. The human tasted very good. I wonder if he had any questions for me.
Thank you.
And of course, every story is.
Well, this human does have some questions. All right, one. Okay, one thing we've not talked about today is the trope about the dragon demands a virgin sacrifice, beautiful maiden, whatever. How do you feel about that? And why can't it be a guy sometimes?
Indeed.
I find me a virgin guy above the age of 11.
Well, somebody, a long time ago, and I cannot remember who said it, but somebody was working on an idea that I thought was just brilliant, where, of course, we all know that unicorns are attracted to virgins, and we're following a band of travelers, and after a while, we eliminate all the females and most of the males on the list of who is following this unicorn, and our big buff hero is sort of going, don't look at me, but yeah, so you could do it.
You could.
I think that'd be a cool twist for a story.
Dude, why don't you write that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
Do it.
I expect it on my desk tomorrow.
Hi. I have a question. So when you're writing, I guess, just any kind of fantasy in general, how do you find a balance between being fun and fantastic and more realistic and I guess not suspension of disbelief?
You're a little hard. We're having a little trouble hearing you, but I think what you're asking is, when crafting a story, how do you strike a balance between the fantastical elements and the realistic elements? At one point, do you have to? Where's the ceiling on the suspension of disbelief?
Well, I mean, for me, it's that you pick what your fantastical elements are. You know, you pick your leaps of logic, whatever those happen to be, and then you have to be rigorously internally consistent thereafter. And people will follow you to strange and weird places in your story as long as you don't pull the rug out from under their feet in a bad way. Yeah. So, okay, dragons exist, and there's magic, and it works by these rules. Great, but you tell them that someone can jump 20 feet straight in the air, and it's a normal person, and there's no other explanation, and they're going to look at you sideways and go, really? There are many examples. That's a very obvious one, but those are the rules I tend to try to follow.
Continuity is the stick by them. and never fail to follow them without an explanation. Because people get confused and they walk away from a story where it's not consistent.
And you establish your rules early, usually by the, nicely by the first paragraph you can really pull it off, but certainly by the first chapter,
Oh,
people
yes.
got to know the world and feel comfortable there, or they're not going to finish reading.
All right, my question is, since you haven't mentioned Jim Butcher, who's the guest of honor this year, but in Dresden Files, the dragons do show up not very often, but they do show up Fairfax. And what do you think of how the dragons are in his world? They come off as very much the elemental primordial dragons. Not evil, but not the Jim Butcher's dragons in Dresden Files.
What do you guys think about Jim Butcher's dragons? If you've read the Dresden Files.
Well, pretty much everything in Jim's Fey realms is very primordial, and it's not necessarily inimical to humans, but it's not friendly either. So the dragons just fit right in with that very nicely.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed to admit I've never read any of Jim's books.
I haven't either, and he can come at me if he wants, but there's a lot of stuff to read, and I mean,
you
it's on
gotta
the
read
list. But
Stephen Brust first.
I've read Brust.
And
I love
Jim,
him.
I love
but
Paolini.
it's basically Stephen Brustian, but more modern.
Well, actually, another good elemental dragon-y writer is Tad Williams with his trilogy, Memories
Oh, yeah.
of Thorn.
Yeah.
Those are not nice dragons, but they are intense and powerful and amazing dragons.
You'll want to start here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't see the...
Very helpful. It says Storm.
Ah.
Thanks.
Does that say we have 10 minutes, 100 minutes, or $10 a minute?
Yes, we have 11 minutes.
Oh, it's round 10.
Robert's the nearest zero.
So you guys, yeah, so they've got this mic turned down pretty low, so you kind of gotta eat it a little bit for us to hear you.
Alright, when you're
No, put it up to your,
Eat
right
the
up. Eat the
microphone,
mic.
please.
Eat the mic.
This isn't the ice cream cone I signed up for.
Just what you do is you breathe through your nose. Keep going.
Alright, when you're writing, how often do you overpower your dragons and have to back up and be like, alright, nobody's going to enjoy this because I forgot the rest of the story? Like, how often do you just build up the dragon so much because you're excited, you want it to be awesome, it's everything you want it to be, and you realize it's too much?
Have you ever fallen into the trap of giving your dragons too much power and realizing you had to scale it back a little? I learned it from you!
Hermes dragons have more like fur-like structure, although, you got to go back to the fact that they're actually more like crystalline structure. They've been a entirely different nucleic acid. We're not going there.
I'm sorry.
Charlotte was falling asleep. No, it's pretty easy to get the dragons to do what they're supposed to do. My mother said these are the rules, and there you go. And occasionally I'll say, hey, let's break this rule, and she'll say, okay. And now that she's no longer here, it's up to my sister and myself to decide which rules we want to break. But usually you don't break them now because there's all these irate fans who will corner you and kill you.
The fans, we only have one brain to get it right, and the fans have a million to nitpick at us.
Good point. But it's certainly not with Bernese dragons. They're pretty easy. They have sense and sensibility.
I think it's almost impossible to overpower dragons because, look at the Norse mythology, look at the Midgard serpent. People have been overpowering dragons from the beginning. Dragons are supposed to be powerful, and the more powerful they are, the more of a challenge they are for whoever has to go up against them, if that's your story. There are practical ways. You don't want a dragon who can will anything into existence and who is the main friend of your hero, and therefore there are no challenges for your hero. So, but short of that, look at the evil bad dragon, the antagonist in How to Train Your Dragon. That was an overpowered dragon, and it sure helped the story. So.
Well, maybe that's the key thing. When you ask that, I think about sort of the way that comic superheroes sort of used to be, where you'd have Superman, when Superman was first in development, he had XYZ powers, but then, and also we can do this, and also we can do this, and also we can do this, as it served the plot versus as it being sort of an organic facet of that character. So maybe you're asking, how do you keep from getting carried away? Maybe it's
You can get carried away. But then you look at it and say, is this in service to the story? If he can do whatever he wants to and there's no one that can withstand him, then you don't have a story, you don't have any conflict. He has no opponents that are worthy of him. And besides, as authors, we wield the most powerful weapon of all, the delete key.
Thank you.
We've touched a lot on very humanistic dragons and their characteristics. I'm wondering, in your opinions, how you guys feel about the animalistic and anthropological side that Marie Brennan has taken in her Natural History of Dragons series.
We didn't hear that. We heard you, I heard you at the beginning, but then you lost me at the end.
You're asking about the naturalistic approach with animalistic dragons by, I couldn't hear the
Marie
author's
Brennan?
name. Who?
Marie Brennan?
Marie Brendan.
Not familiar.
Not familiar, sorry.
It sounds like a cool idea,
Yeah.
but haven't read the books.
Yeah, sorry.
I've been wondering, I'm a huge Inheritance Cycle fan, and I love your books, Christopher Paolini. And I was just wondering, I know that you use a lot of mythological elements to shape the Inheritance Cycle story. Did you base Saphira or any of the other dragons on specific mythological dragons from the past, like Smaug or any others?
I love this kid.
This is a great
Love
question.
this kid. Did anybody not hear the question?
The question is did I base Saphira or the other dragons in the Inheritance Cycle off any mythological dragons from the past, like Smaug, for example, which I think Tolkien would have been so flattered to have been called mythological. I think the dragons from the Pern series were a huge influence. Ursula Le Guin's dragons, the dragon from Beowulf, the dragons from Feist and Tad Williams and many other places. But as I said, none of them really felt exactly like the dragons I wanted to do. So I can't point at one specific dragon and say that was the dragon that got dealing with dragons. That was the dragon that was the specific kernel. Oh, and Bruce Coville, Jeremy Thatcher Dragon Hatcher, which so it's more of like an amalgamation of all those different ideas.
I'll piggyback on that real quick. And since you didn't go with like Greco-Roman mythology, but for all of you, is there a dragon canon with one N that maybe people just the McCaffrey dragon, the Tolkien dragons, like what if you could sort of each name one series that would be paramount in a dragon canon, what would it be?
Yes.
Okay.
All of those.
All of those.
That's the nice thing about dragons is you can draw from everywhere. You can draw from all the mythologies, you can draw from other writers, whatever inspires you.
And you can make a Nazi robot Death Star.
Sure can. Sure can, Mercedes.
The other dragons we missed, which is surprising when you think about it, and they're animalistic dragons, would be the dragons that are in the Goblet of Fire in the Harry Potter series.
Oh, yeah.
Very out of control. Yeah.
I really
My
wish-
Father's Dragon. Does anyone remember that kid's book?
Which one?
My Father's Dragon? Oh my goodness. At least another old fart.
5 minutes. I can read
Thank
now.
you. Okay, I think we've got time for one more. I'm sorry.
That's a lot of pressure.
Time's linear, it is what it is.
This is also for Christopher. I'm a huge fan of the Inheritance series. I was wondering, do you think after the series ended, had the dragons become dependent on the humans and the elves, etc., or do you think they would eventually grow to become their own society again?
They eventually will, but for the moment they're dependent. Do we have one more question for the good question? But do we have one more for the whole panel?
For the group?
For the whole panel.
Okay, yes.
We have a 6-year-old.
Well, yeah, bring it on.
You never talk about Jesus the night where the only one is worth of his time.
Can we get a translation?
He's the last dragon of his kind. He's a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan. Can't tell.
And sorry, wait, we still didn't hear the question.
Toothless.
What about Toothless?
Is he the last dragon of his kind?
Is he the last dragon of his kind? So we are to speculate, I suppose, because those are based on books by Cressida Cowell. And if she were here, I'm sure she would have the better answer. Is this just based on the movie that he's asking this question?
Yeah.
Okay, I would say to get the answer, go read the books by Kristen Howard. Because I don't know the answer.
Mind you, the
Finally,
books-
the incentive to get him to learn to read.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. The books are very different than the movies. They are very different from the movies. Toothless is an obnoxious little twit.
Yeah. Okay, we actually have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Hi.
For Mr. McCaffrey, I was wondering, how did it feel to take the mantle from your mom when she did unfortunately pass away, and to have this big, expansive world at your fingertips that was now belonging to you and your sister? How did that emotionally? How did that feel as a writer? How did that feel?
Yeah, you can
Do I need
answer that.
to read any of that?
Yeah, well, we're still working on it. You know, between Mom and myself, the last 8 books were written. And so at the time, when she was still hardy and hale, as far as we all knew, we were saying, you know, we should take a break for a while, because 8 books in a row in the same universe is a lot. And so we were doing that, and then unfortunately, she wasn't there anymore. But she's very specific in her will. She said that she only wants me and my sister to be able to write on Pern. I've got 8 books out on Pern, so it's kind of time to let my little sister, not so little, because you know she's only a few years younger than me, have a shot on Pern. And when she's done with her first book on Pern, we're going to go see what else can happen. But there's a whole bunch of good stuff in Pern. It was a lot of fun to be able to play with that universe, and I'm also looking forward a lot to seeing how my sister plays with it. Does that answer the question?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's it for now. Thank you to you guys for coming, and thank you to our wonderful panelists. I just want to say real quick to our Dragon Riders and Pern fans, and all are invited, but particularly to you Pern fans, at 7 o'clock we are having a gather in Embassy EF, and we're going to be talking a lot about like role-playing games and like sort of reliving the way, like old school Pern fandom from the 90s. So come hang out with us.
I have one more thing to